Hello, TikTok community, and this will also be forwarded to um, Facebook. Won't be live anymore, and on YouTube. Hello, everybody, on YouTube and Rumble right here, and TikTok and Instagram right here. How's everybody doing, guys? I just tried doing this games and these programs that TikTok Live has instituted on their platform. I'm very new to the TikTok platform, so I've been learning, and but at least I figured out how to mic myself up now on live TikTok. And 2 days ago, I reported a after a live sort of like insights, and on the report, I printed it, I downloaded it, printed, and TikTok was showing me that a vast majority of my listener, when I went live and there's over 1,000 viewers for one live event, that the vast majority of my listeners, according to that particular, I'm not sure if it's that particular live session or uh, every single time I go live, and the cumulative statistics or insight of of all the live sessions I had with TikTok summarizes it with that insights report, and in that insights it shows that vast majority of my listeners or those who tune in to some of my podcasts are males, men. uh, Up to 85% of my listeners are men between the age 25 to 55. Well, I like that. Thank you very much. If you're one of those men who follow, started following me here on TikTok. I'm brand new to TikTok, but I thank God that TikTok is not a shadow banning platform. So I'm gonna give this a chance to be and to consider if this is gonna be the home of my um, uh, what do you call solo podcast when I don't have a guest on. Uh, you can say monologue podcast. From time to time, there's actually in this past month, three people have reached out to me from different genres. Two from the freedom community and one from my former life before I became a freedom podcaster. Um, the the entertainment industry where I used to do a lot of content creation for reach out to me to requesting an interview for their guest. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that right now. I'm doing solo podcasts like this, like a monologue, which I'm open to getting guests on board, but I want to plan it out. Because when you have a guest on board, especially if it's not from the same time zone, I used to have a lot of guests from British Columbia, from Alberta, and the time zone is totally different. And from time to time, I have guests coming on from the United States and from one time from Australia, which I had to do like nighttime here, so that is during the day in Australia, which is fun. You know, it's just it's there's a little bit more setup when you're doing a podcast with a guest on, which in the future we can do that again. But right now I'm trying to establish myself here on brand new platform called TikTok. And earlier today, I actually tried some of those suggestions that I get from TikTok to go live and do some of the programs, which is invite people to join me on on screen. And I tried that, but there's a lot of complications because I don't know how to mute some people, and the mute button is so tiny, and people just come in and out without saying anything. And I think still, right now, in the current state, I think this platform is still designed for a lot of millennials and young people, but we're not we're gonna change that for our purpose. The most important is that we have a medium, we have a platform who does not silence us, who does not shadow ban us when we exercise our free speech, and we'll see if TikTok could be our new home for um, the Ordinary Joe podcast. I'm going back to my original branding, the Ordinary Joe, as opposed to Freedom Fighter Radio. I am not to, just to be clear, I am not trying to, or it's not my intention to neglect or just to go past my freedomizing, my freedomizing messages and my fight for freedom and my absolute passion to help build a community who will stand for our rights and freedom and to band together so that our freedoms will not be undermined, our freedoms will not be taken away from us. I am still passionate about that, but at this time, at this age in my content creating or my podcasting life, I felt like that the Lord is leading me to something a little different approach with the same kind of goal but a little different approach, which is to actually meet where people are. So, welcome to my TikTok channel. This TikTok channel is mostly the followers of this TikTok channel are mostly from random lives and from posts that I have posted on this channel, and not a migration from my former channels that accumulated up to 50,000 followers. That's the vast majority of my TikTok followers here. This is brand new. I'm making new friends here, and thank you. I hope you will subscribe. Some of you who come and join me, joining the live session, please come. Please, I think they say double tap the screen so that you can like, and hopefully if you follow, then you'll get notified future live sessions. Because I am preparing starting Monday next week. I have a prepared schedule of specific topics that I think is going to be very valuable for many listeners, especially I'm deviating away from political discourse, from social activism. That's I'm not shunning that. I'm not abandoning that altogether. I'm just kind of putting that aside for now because there are other things in life that I want to focus on. There are messages and focus that I want to share some of my experience, especially when it comes to my health journey. When I started losing about 80 pounds from September 2023 and up to now, and most of you haven't seen me how I was in my former podcasting life, how obese I was. I was 230 pounds, and it's kind of disconcerting because this camera is not mirror. um, I have two screens here, folks. Okay, I distract myself. Forgive me for that. I haven't done podcasting for a while now, but I'm trying to get back in the game, but just with a different genre and a different kind of messaging. Because at the end of the day, what I'm trying to accomplish with my podcast is to reach out and create community of ordinary Jane and Joe Canadians primarily, but also ordinary Jane and Joe citizens of the world, because that's my branding. My branding originally is the Ordinary Joe Show before I kind of like dabbled into the freedom radio genre. And that's all because of the restrictions and the lockdowns and heavy mandates from the government, which from the get-go, even when I started content creating in 2017, it was never my intention to be political. I'm avoiding with all costs to be political, but the mandates, the heavy mandates and the lockdowns really forced me to dabble into the political discourse, or at least sounding out or putting the feet to the fire of those people who are in power, who impose upon us, ordinary James and Joe, what they think is good for us, instead of giving us the freedom to determine for ourselves what is good for ourselves. So we kind of got past that. Not really. There's a lot of lingering tyrannical, heavy mandate kind of mentality that's still going on. But I don't want to focus on that because I understand that it's a different kind of ball game and a different kind of animal to try and influence policies in the country you love, because that's a politician's kind of like game. And one of the reasons is, some of my listeners who probably migrated, very few have migrated from my former podcast channel, because these are mostly brand new friends of mine, 3,000 subscribers right now. We need to increase this to about 10,000 so that, at least we can get monetized doing this as well, and buy better gears and fund some of our pre-production and whatnot. But um, the kind of lost my train of thought there. Let me get a drink of water. I kind of got exhausted with the last live session with some young people coming on and trying to learn TikTok with them, and basically I'm asking questions. How do I use this platform? And they're teaching me the millennial ways of doing things. It's okay. I'll give it a try once, but it's exhausting. It's not me. Battling out and playing games online to create community. That's not what I want to do. I want to deliver value. There's something that popped up there and then it went away. I want to deliver value. When I'm studying about content creation, from the very beginning, I was a content creator back in 2017 after I finished a college course called digital marketing. I never wanted to be political, but I want to focus on, in the business world, what we call SME, or small and medium-sized enterprises, or a slang or an urban dictionary term for it is a mom and pop shop kind of community where entrepreneurs, moms and dads who just want to create their own income. These are the kinds of people I want to feature on my podcast, and also independent artists and independent book writers. Before I got political, that was my community. I was promoting a local recording company, and I was promoting recording artists, that are homegrown, grassroots, local recording artists. I'm interviewing them, promoting them, events, live events. That was the direction I was heading to before I got sucked into the political discourse, which no regrets. I like participating in the political discourse, but that's not the way we can affect people's mindset. I think the way we can influence policies and politics in any nation that we love and that we want to help build is to try and be an influence, a positive force in the development of the culture. It's in affecting culture. I think it's more effective than affecting politics and policies, because most people don't care about politics. Only that is not a good thing. I think people should care about what's happening in their localities, local governments, federal governments, and be involved. However, people just don't want to be left alone, right? And the tendency for many Canadians is that they trust. A lot of Canadians do trust the government and just let them do what they need to do. But meanwhile, a lot of people in the government are not trustworthy. They're taking advantage of ordinary citizens. They're taking advantage of the fact that a lot of the members of the society are nonchalant or oblivious to what's going on, and they're taking advantage that people are not paying attention, and they're using that lack of attention to manipulate their way to wealth, to influence, to access on things that are very selfish in nature. Um, but again, it's very tempting to go down that road. That's not what I want my podcast to be. It's not. I don't want to be political on this podcast. What I want us to celebrate are the innovations in culture, in science, in family, in entrepreneurship, in arts and entertainment, and it gives a lot of identity and mental health to a society when we are involved in growing our culture. It's, I think, growing our culture, making it better, make it more healthy, is part of growing a country or growing a society. So I'm deciding to take that path instead of battling out, you know, political policies, whether it's local or federal policies, affecting those policies. It proves to show that you cannot win if you're not a politician. And I don't like politics. I don't want to be a politician. I had a political life before when I was 17. I think that's a game for the young. You have a lot of vitality. However, there's a lot of young politicians don't have the wisdom. They only have the formulaic kind of cookie cutter, how they're being trained how to think. But a lot of young politicians don't have a critical thinking kind of way of way of life. So it was a big internal debate. Should I continue influencing that because a lot of people don't care about it, or do we just shift the direction of our approach? And I think this is going to be more effective approach is to bring more insights and bring more education and bring more conversation on things that we can grow together, whether liberals or conservatives, whether left leaning or right leaning. There are things that we can build together. And so I would like to, in my next era of podcasting, I want to be focused more on bridging the gap. Because there's a lot of good liberal people, though I am very much leaning towards conservatism. There's a lot of good liberal people, and liberalism, classical liberalism at least, it's all about freedom. It's all about liberty. It's all about, and that's what we're all about. Freedomizing and fighting for freedom and standing for our rights and freedom is about liberty and liberalism in the classical way. Um, Invite you to co-host. Somebody is inviting me to co-host. Let's see, how does that work?
Hello,
Okay, so I guess I'm co-host here with Alibi. Hello, Alibi. Welcome to. Am I joining your show or you're joining my show? I'm not sure.
hello,
Hello. What's your name?
Kosovo,
Alibi.
Albania, Kosovo,
I couldn't hear you properly. Sorry.
Kosovo,
Kosovo. And there's another one.
oh,
Okay. Um. Okay. So I'm not into like doing battles and stuff like that right now. Uh, I'll bring you in
English
if you want
language
to participate.
to
If you want to participate in the conversation, I'll let you in. But for now, I'm gonna mute you and I'll continue on with. I don't know how to. Okay, I got a pop up and I pressed the button and I got an invite and I accepted the invite by mistake. I shouldn't have because I'm in the middle of a monologue here. Um, the the idea for this podcast that I am going to be hosting on TikTok will deal with a lot of history in the pop culture scene, in innovation, in technology, things that the history of Toronto, what we can be proud of as Torontonians and Canadians. That's the focus of this podcast. That is the idea of this podcast. But it's not only for Torontonians, these are also for the members of the worldwide community because whatever Toronto could be what you call a prototype or a microcosm of a representation of many megacities and many communities, even small town communities all over the world. And because I live here in Toronto, I'll be focusing on promoting arts, science, entertainment, recording artists, going back to my ordinary Joe branding and the roots of my podcast before I became political. Because the mental health of society can be reflected and can be sort of like diagnosed through the kind of music, through the kind of films, through the kind of technology and innovation that we develop here in our town. So I have a schedule of featuring different kinds of architectural, historical points in Toronto history, um, touching on architecture, touching on uh, street art installations, murals, monuments, because all of those symbolic and artistic expression of the society tells a lot about our personality. And even though I'm focused on Toronto, this the pattern that you will learn from our journey together to deep dive on the history and the futuristic outlook of where the city can go to is a template or a structural template that many members of other societies, many members of other megacities or other provinces or even other United uh, U.S. states can learn from some of how we deep dive with the families, the innovators, the scientists, the entrepreneurs. uh, what we learn from them in our city can be a lesson for other people who are members of other societies all over the world. So that's the idea. Um, and the categories that I'm going to be touching on when it comes to pop culture is television, radio, performing arts in meaning public events or live events such as concerts, plays, theaters, things of that nature. Also, comedy. There's so much to learn about comedy, the evolution of comedy, how comedy is really um, can be satirical, political, and a lot of people have used comedy to influence policies because sometimes you gotta have to go on a roundabout way to point out clueless politicians why whatever they're proposing doesn't really fit the best interests of ordinary folks like us. So sometimes through satirical comedy, this can be accomplished. But the idea is to really stand for our freedoms, and because without freedom, you cannot innovate in sciences. We cannot develop better culinary arts. We cannot develop, better entrepreneurial pursuit in our towns, in our societies. So I want to get back to that roots of the branding. The Ordinary Joe branding is all about arts, all about family, all about culture, films, music, radio, recording artists, history, architecture, street art. All of these have a lot of impact into our daily lives. Even when you think of utilities such as subways and telephone lines and internet lines, all of these have designs, and they are influenced. Math is influenced by art and science, and there are artistic expressions that are going to be healthy for humanity, but there are also artistic expressions that can be oppressive and dystopic. So those are some of the deep dives. So I started uh, giving instruction to my large language model to pile up, to collect some topics that I want to touch on starting Monday next week, in the fields of recording artists that were impactful pop culture recording artists that was born in Toronto but impacted the world. Uh, Oscar Peterson, there's Drake, there's um, not specifically Toronto but Canadian like Celine Dion, Hollywood actors like Mike Myers and all that. How was the world impacted by certain kinds of Torontonians in the field of science? The grandfather of AI. Maybe you guys don't know that, but the grandfather or the godfather of artificial intelligence, Jeffrey Hinton, is actually a U of T professor down here. So there are so many prominent characters that were homegrown Torontonians that affected the world. You know, do you know that basketball was created in Canada? Do you know that Superman, the character, was created in Canada? And I was collecting some topics to talk about, and then one suggestion I got, and we're gonna close with this because this is a debate point regarding culture. Is I got a suggestion from AI that talking about culture, I should touch on these TV series back in the 90s that started in late 70s, which impacted the entire world, according to perspective of many who are part of this, the development of this TV series called Degrassi High, right? So I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she is the same age as those depicted in this TV series called Degrassi High. And I was deep diving into this if it's going to be part of the topic that I am going to touch on. But when I deep dive, I realized that it's not going to be part of what we're going to talk about, simply because not all Canadians are proud of that particular genre of TV series that was developed in Toronto. Degrassi is there's a road on Parkdale called Degrassi, influenced by a high school teacher. Actually, the entire series, the storyline, the development of that story was influenced by a high school teacher down there at Parkdale, and apparently that type of TV treatment, television treatment, or development of a series development like that was a template that was taken by many TV shows that deals with teenage crisis, junior high school crisis of that age group, and it was adopted in many TV shows all over the world. Apparently, and Degrassi High was licensed to over 140 countries. But I decided that it won't be part of um, our lineup of topics to cover, simply because not all Canadians are proud of it. I would say there are more Canadians who are not proud of it than that probably it's in my observation. Again, it's Degrassi High is pretty new to me, but the Degrassi High genre apparently was like a 40-60 split. 60% of Canadians didn't like it, and only 40% who were involved in the production of that TV series actually promote it as if it's a tip of the spear. It's like a pioneering kind of new thing. So the reason I'm dropping it, but we are going to talk about right now, and this is the first and last time I'm going to talk about it, is that according to the developers of that TV show, Degrassi High, what they were trying to accomplish with that TV series is to depict unfiltered, uh, little aesthetic, but raw and authentic. They call raw and authentic, and and age appropriate, meaning not okay. I shouldn't use that term age appropriate because it's not appropriate actually to the age group that's supposed to be the target market of that TV show, which are 14 to 17, I think, 13 to 17-year-old kids. And when they were developing the TV series, they actually got actors within the Parkdale community, non-professional actors initially, and to act in that TV show, which are age, the actual age of what they're depicting as their character. So meaning, if a 14-year-old girl is the description of the character, they will actually go out and find a 14-year-old girl to be the actor to depict that character. So when I say age appropriate, that's what I mean. I didn't mean age appropriate as in the content was age appropriate for the age group that the target market is supposed to be targeting for the messaging. So the Degrassi High TV series touch a lot of very controversial things like teen pregnancy, substance abuse, LGBTQ issues back in the 70s when it wasn't really mainstream yet. And so in some circles, they were considered to be pioneers and considered to be, you know, um, what's the word, like trailblazers in creating this kind of TV genre where it's raw, it's authentic, they say, right? But when I'm going through recaps, especially the first season, I understand why a lot of conservative Canadians find it appalling because there's a lot of sexualizing. It's sexualizing a lot of these children. And when you dig deeper, further into this, uh, when you really dissect the truth behind the claim that this is a trailblazing world, revolutionizing kind of brand new way of treating television for that age group target market, you will soon discover that more than 60% of those who consume the Grassy High on television worldwide are not the 14 to 18 year olds. They are not the ones who were watching the Grassy High. The vast majority of the TV viewers were older adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, looking at sexualized children's depicted, sexualized, highly abusive, highly mentally ill kind of. Here's a problem with television, right? When you depict something on television and you normalize it, it becomes a very strong influence that the viewers, if the original intention was for to be viewed by 14 to 18-year-old kids, everything that's depicted on a TV show is normalized in such a way. Oh, it's accepted because it's on TV. Well, it's normal because it's on TV. So, substance abuse, extreme sexualization of children. 14-year-old are kids. I have a 14-year-old. She's still a baby. They don't mature until maybe they're 21. Especially in certain kinds of demographics and culture. Uh, uh, Many migrant groups coming from conservative culture, they have, like many Filipinos are, like they have very close family ties, or you have respect for elders, and innocence of the young are very much protected, and things like the Grassy High is just making it's like it feels like it's mainstreaming highly sexualized children and highly so much substance abuse being normalized in that show. So I decided it's not going to be part of the deep dive, simply because there are a stark difference between there are very controversial dichotomy in the perspective among Canadians. Many Canadians don't like it. Many Canadians, celebrate it. And it looks like the divide was between liberals, progressives, and conservatives. So religious families, conservative families didn't. Most of them didn't like the grassy high, but the liberals, progressive, those who wants to, ah, their children, they're gonna be sexualized kind of attitude. They're the ones who's okay with the kind of the grassy high type of treatment on television, and that's the reason we're not gonna make it part of our lineup because what we want to focus on are both both sides of the Canadian diaspora, conservatives, liberals, progressives, capitalists, e- everybody in the Canadian diaspora is who I want to serve. So um, things like recording artist Oscar Peterson, all Canadians can come together and celebrate Oscar Peterson. It's not very, it's not a dividing person, right? So Celine Dion doesn't matter if you're conservative or liberal. Everybody celebrates Celine Dion. Jim Carrey, his comedy. For young people, there's a lot of uh, people who follow Justin Bieber on the right and also on the left. So there are some unifying forces, and we are going to focus on unifying forces. Scientists who invented the insulin, for example, at University of Toronto. Those that divides Canada sharply, like the grassy high. So just to give you a synopsis, what are the kinds of podcast topic that we are going to touch on starting Monday? Those are some of the things because we're going to deep dive on some of the history, how, for example, the viaduct, how was that developed, the Don Valley Parkway, what was it before it became the Don Valley Parkway, um, understanding your community, understanding your city, will help you understand who you are and what's your place in the world. And that's my hope. That's my goal. And I'm hoping that it will be entertaining but also very educational because there are two genres that seems to be thriving in social media and digital streaming platforms like YouTube, Rumble, TikTok, Facebook. It's either you're an entertainer or you're an educator. Um, and I just kind of want to cut it in between. I want us to touch on very valuable education, but in an entertaining, fun-loving and light-hearted way. So that's what the Ordinary Joe, right here on TikTok, is going to try and create here as our community. So I'm inviting all Torontonians who please subscribe. But if you're not from Toronto, if you're not Canadian, this podcast is also for you because the most multicultural city in the world for many years is Toronto. So here in Toronto, it's a melting pot of ideas and a lot of ideas that we create and fight over, to shape, to mold into something is most likely a good fit to whatever culture you're from because this is the city where the world has gathered, and so we're trying to create good things here in Toronto. And so even if you're not from Toronto, welcome to this show. We welcome you here. We want you to come, subscribe, invite your friends because you're going to learn so much from the city, the history of the city, and so many innovations, so many film, TV, books, and cultural development that happens here. And I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Thank you for joining in. Please double tap, subscribe, follow me on my other social media, which I will put here on the offline upload. God bless you all. Thank you for joining in, and we'll see you again next time. We'll see you on Monday. Take care. Bye bye. Okay. Turn off. Okay. I'm offline too. So there you go, folks. It's picture of the picture. But I don't know how to turn this off. how do we end the live?